Cataclysms are changing rapidly, literally before our eyes, acquiring increasingly unusual and hard to predict characteristics. And the events of the past week clearly demonstrate this. Until recently, such changes were rarely a topic of discussion. But today, the trend has become so obvious that specialists can no longer ignore it. However, even when commenting on what is happening, many of them bypass or entirely overlook the factor that plays a key role in the formation of these anomalies. What this factor is, find out later in this report. China. On March 29th, southern China was hit by a powerful convective storm. The densely populated Pearl River Delta took the brunt of the storm. Thunderstorms and rain began during the day, quickly intensifying into heavy downpours. In some areas of Guangdong province, daily precipitation exceeded 100 millimeters. The storm was accompanied by hail and squally winds, with gusts reaching 34 meters per second. Due to damage to railway tracks caused by the storm, train services in Foshan were restricted and temporarily suspended in some areas. Experts note that in recent years, Guangdong has experienced an increase in severe convective weather, accompanied by thunderstorms, hail, squally winds, and intense rainfall. The event on March 29th became one of the most striking examples of this intensifying trend. Satellite data showed that thunderclouds rose above 12 kilometers, and the temperature at their tops dropped below -60 degrees Celsius, indicating extremely strong updrafts that triggered such a powerful convective storm. Europe. On March 26th, France was hit by a wave of polar air, bringing winter-like weather back. Snow fell at low altitudes in the Vosges Mountains and on the island of Corsica, and icy roads caused serious problems. Trucks were blocked. Black ice in the town of Ségur in the Aveyron department led to a multi-kilometer traffic jam, while in the northern part of the country, heavy hail caused a truck to crash into a house fence. In the town of Attilly-Lomagne, located in the Aisne department, 10 centimeters of snow fell, and in Savoie, at a ski resort, the snow cover reached 20 centimeters. On the night of March 27th, vineyards in the Indre-et-Loire department were at the epicenter of the cold. Temperatures there dropped to -3 degrees Celsius. In an effort to protect their crops, farmers in the wine-producing regions operated heat towers, candles, and smoke fires throughout the night. This wave of cold polar air was the cause of Cyclone Deborah. It struck the Apennine Peninsula with explosive force on March 26th. In the Friuli-Venezia Giulia region, extremely strong winds were observed not only in the mountains, where gusts reached 216 kilometers per hour, but also along the coast and in the lowlands. The strong winds knocked down trees and poles and tore down power lines. In Genoa, planes could not land and were forced to be redirected to other airports. Waist-high snow-blocked paths to monasteries and pilgrim shelters in the Apennines, between Tuscany and Emilia-Romagna. Overnight, temperatures there dropped sharply by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. On a provincial road to the well-known pilgrimage center La Verna, a tourist bus got stuck in snowdrifts. Snow removal equipment could not handle such an amount of snow, and 58 pilgrims, most of whom were elderly, were forced to walk. In La Verna, snow fell in the form of small ice crystals, indicating extremely low temperatures at the altitude where it formed, and long icicles appeared on the rocks and courtyards of the monastery. In Naples and the coastal towns, cold air, gusty winds, and sleet rapidly swept in. During the day in Rome, the temperature reached only +6 degrees Celsius, which is typical of mid-January rather than late March. At the same time, the city experienced severe thunderstorms with heavy rain and hail. Due to snowfall on the E45 state highway, a truck overturned, causing the road to be closed northbound near the commune of Vergereto. The town of Avezzano, located at approximately 700 meters above sea level, was hit by a strong snowstorm at a temperature of +4 degrees Celsius. Normally, in March, this altitude sees rain, and snow occurs only on the peaks, making this event extremely unusual. In the Alps, at the Campana Regina Margherita Observatory on March 27th, a record low temperature for March was recorded, -29.7 degrees Celsius. However, due to strong winds with gusts exceeding 140 kilometers per hour, the perceived temperature reached an extreme -56.5 degrees Celsius. Cyclone Deborah struck Croatia with heavy snowfall and stormy winds, with gusts reaching 150 kilometers per hour along the coast. Over the course of 24 hours, firefighters across the country carried out approximately 900 operations, clearing roads of fallen trees and assisting in the restoration of damaged buildings. In Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, on March 27th, school classes were suspended due to hurricane-force winds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. The wind knocked down trees, damaging more than 150 cars and over 50 roofs. In addition, a basketball hall sustained serious damage. Snow and strong winds paralyzed transport connections between the inland areas of the country and the coast. Major routes were closed, including sections of highways A6 and A1 in the mountainous regions of Gorski Kotar and Lika. Due to the severe weather, the bridge connecting the mainland with the island of Kirk was temporarily closed, and the operation of many ferries and catamarans in Dalmatia on the southern Croatian coast was suspended. Cyclone Deborah also hit Bosnia and Herzegovina with hail and thunderstorms. In the city of Mostar, the coastal town of Neum, the pilgrimage center of Medjugorje, as well as in the areas of Široki Brijeg and Grud, streets quickly became covered with hail, and traffic was completely paralyzed due to slippery roads and zero visibility. By the evening of March 27th, the severe weather caused a major power outage. In the Una Sana canton, approximately 50,000 consumers were left without electricity. In the administrative center Bihać and in the town of Kazin, the situation was most critical. Under the weight of wet snow and falling trees, power lines snapped, causing concrete and metal supports of the transmission lines to collapse. Heavy snowfall began on March 29th on Mount Vlasic, a popular ski resort. Snowdrifts exceeded 1 meter, complicating access to tourist settlements. In Romania, on the high-altitude Transalpina Road in Gorj County, wind gusts of up to 120 kilometers per hour were recorded, with a snow layer exceeding 35 centimeters. Snowfall at Lake Balja in Argeș County brought more than 1.5 meters of snow, while in Valcha County on Mount Roman, the location of a ski resort, snowdrifts reached 3 meters. On the afternoon of March 28th, the severe weather shifted south. In the village of Cernetu, Teleorman County, local residents observed a mini tornado. Large hail the size of a pigeon egg fell in the communes of Răsmirești and Strobaniasa. In the village of Mărzinești, the wind tore off the roof of a residential house and destroyed solar panels, and in several other communes of the county, heavy rains caused flooding of homes and yards. In the western part of Bulgaria, including the capital Sofia, Pernik province, and the surrounding areas of Kustendil, snow fell. At the Pamporovo ski resort, the snow layer reached 10 centimeters. On March 28th, the city of Krumovgrad and surrounding areas were hit by large hail the size of a walnut. The phenomenon lasted about 15 minutes, and the streets were covered with a thick layer of ice. The storm caused significant damage. Crops in private yards, gardens, and agricultural fields were destroyed, roofs of buildings were damaged, and car windows were shattered. Despite the widespread destruction and substantial material damage caused by Cyclone Deborah in European countries, no official information about injured or deceased persons has been reported.
Croatia, it was equally as bad. This is the main road.
The Middle East. At the end of March, an unusually powerful storm system swept across the countries of the Middle East. Experts note that such weather conditions are typically observed in Tornado Alley in the United States and are extremely rare for a region with a desert climate. Starting from March 23rd, Qatar came under the influence of a storm system accompanied by heavy rain, strong winds, and hail. In just 3 days, the city of Ras Laffan, home to the world's largest liquefied natural gas production facility, received more precipitation than it typically does over an entire year. The average annual norm is 70 millimeters. Extreme downpours were also recorded in other regions of the country, causing widespread flooding of residential areas and blocking key transport arteries. The average annual norm is 62 millimeters. As part of an emergency response operation to deal with the aftermath of the disaster, more than 480,000 cubic meters of rainwater were pumped out over 68 hours of continuous work. The storm reached Saudi Arabia on the same day. Heavy rains with hail struck the northern Al Jauf region. On March 26th, severe weather affected a number of settlements in the Tabuk area. At the same time, temperatures on Jabal al-Lawz dropped below zero, and snowfall was recorded, which is uncharacteristic for the region at this time of year. On March 25th, powerful storms with torrential rains struck the territory of the United Arab Emirates, causing wadis to overflow and triggering sudden flash floods. Transport connections were paralyzed, dozens of vehicles were flooded, and drivers were forced to abandon their cars directly on the roads. Before emergency services could fully deal with the aftermath of the disaster, another powerful storm system hit the country again on the night of March 27th. Winds reached speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour, lifting sand and dust into the air and sharply reducing visibility, while in some areas heavy hail was reported. The intense rainfall was accompanied by constant lightning and thunder. Residents reported that flashes illuminated the sky for more than 2 hours. Due to the severe weather, flights were delayed, and in the largest cities, Dubai, Sharjah, and Abu Dhabi, roads and underground passages were flooded. In Oman, intense rainstorms occurred, accompanied by thunderstorm activity, hail, and squally winds. Dried-up riverbeds rapidly filled with water, causing sudden flash floods. Communication, electricity, and water supply services were disrupted. The most severe impact of the storm was in Musandam province. Emergency services received more than 1,400 calls related to the aftermath of the disaster. In several areas, roads were washed out and residents were trapped in their homes. Most provinces switched to remote work. Across the country, 161 temporary accommodation centers were set up for evacuated citizens. At least 12 people lost their lives due to the storm. Starting from March 27th, Yemen was also hit by a powerful storm, leading to widespread flooding. Fast-moving water and mud inundated residential areas and damaged hundreds of homes. More than 1,000 families were left homeless, and many roads were flooded or blocked by debris. Traffic on key streets in Aden, the temporary capital of Yemen, was paralyzed for several hours. The most critical situation was observed in the Taiz province. Floods submerged several villages, and mudflows caused damage to the historic Al-Gharafi Mosque, a significant religious and cultural landmark of the region. In addition, the storm destroyed extensive areas of agricultural land and caused massive losses among livestock. Rescuers operated under extremely difficult conditions due to heavy rains and damaged infrastructure. High water levels and fast currents hindered access to some areas. The storm claimed the lives of at least 17 people, and 5 more are reported missing. Analyzing the destructive events of the past week, it becomes apparent that there is a common factor behind them. We suggest viewing a segment of a scientific review that will help shed light on this little-studied factor.
These natural disasters occurred in different parts of the world, but the climate system connects them through a single common process, the anomalous warming of the ocean. It is the abnormally heated ocean that increasingly transfers excess energy and moisture into the atmosphere. From the surplus of heat and moisture, storms, torrential rains, and waves of extreme heat and cold begin to form. Yet it is important to understand that the ocean does not warm or interact with the atmosphere under sterile conditions. This delicate system has already been altered by another factor of anthropogenic origin, micro and nanoplastic. By contaminating both the ocean and the atmosphere, interferes with processes of heat exchange, gas exchange, cloud formation, and the hydrological cycle. As a result, we are facing a new type of combined crisis. The source of additional heat lies in the intensifying geodynamic activity of the Earth, while micro and nanoplastic simultaneously blocks the natural mechanisms that dissipate this heat and disrupts atmospheric processes. Humanity is not yet prepared for such a crisis. Today, the window of opportunity for action is no longer measured in decades. It is measured merely in years. And I say this not as a rhetorical figure, but based on the speed of the changes we are already observing. The accelerating warming of the ocean, the deepening of weather anomalies, the intensification of seismic and volcanic instability, and the continuing exponential accumulation of micro and nanoplastic in the hydrosphere and the atmosphere. Against an existing backdrop of how rapidly the ocean itself is changing, continuing to address these issues at the pace of endless negotiations carries serious risk. It is difficult to justify another 10 or 20 years spent debating whether new factors are convenient to acknowledge or whether they fit neatly into existing models. Nature is indifferent to how comfortable institutions may feel or how political strategies are designed. The physics of these processes continue to unfold according to their own laws, regardless of our doubts. I invite you to reflect seriously on this, because life is worth fighting for.